My fiancé's family did not shout when they tried to buy me. They smiled. That was the worst part. They sat across from me in a private conference room 40 floors above the city, poured imported coffee into porcelain cups, and offered me $50,000 to leave her because I wasn't their class. I stared at the check for a long time. My name was printed neatly on the front. Jonah Reed. $50,000. A price tag for my disappearance. Her father slid it toward me with 2 fingers, like he was moving something dirty across the table. "Take it," he said. "Walk away quietly. Let Ivy have the life she deserves." Her mother folded her hands and added, "No scandal, no drama, just dignity." Dignity. That word almost made me laugh. Because people like the Albrights always thought dignity was something they could purchase, frame, and hang on a wall. I looked at the check. Then I looked at them, and I said, "All right." Their faces changed instantly. Relief, satisfaction, victory. They thought they had measured me correctly. They thought poor meant weak. They thought tired meant broken. They thought love could be beaten by a number written in blue ink. So yes, I took the check. But I did not disappear. I did something they never saw coming. My name is Jonah Reed. I was 32 years old when this happened, and I worked as a water systems technician for the city. That meant I spent most of my days in steel-toed boots, checking pressure valves, testing lines, repairing old pumps, and making sure people never had to wonder whether clean water would come out when they opened a tap. It was not glamorous work. Nobody applauded when the pipes held. Nobody sent thank you notes when a neighborhood avoided contamination. Most people only noticed men like me when something went wrong. Ivy noticed me on a night when everything went wrong. A summer storm had flooded the basement of a community center on Alder Street. The building served kids after school, seniors during the day, and families on weekends. Ivy volunteered there twice a week, teaching art classes to children whose parents worked late shifts. I was sent with a repair crew after a pump failed. When I arrived, Ivy was standing ankle-deep in water, holding a box of children's paintings over her head like it contained gold. "Can you save the building?" she asked. I told her I could save the pump. She said, "Then start there." That was Ivy. She believed saving one thing was still saving something. We spent 6 hours in that basement. I repaired the pump. She carried soaked books upstairs. At 2 a.m, we sat on the front steps eating vending machine crackers and watching rainwater run along the curb. She asked me why I did that kind of work. I told her, because everyone deserves clean water, even people the city forgets. She looked at me for a long moment and said, "That might be the most beautiful answer anyone has ever given me." I thought she was joking. She was not. We fell in love slowly, not like lightning, more like sunrise. A coffee after my shift. A walk after her class. A Saturday fixing shelves at the center. A Sunday meeting her friends. Then, 1 year later, a ring I could barely afford, held in shaking hands under the old mural the kids had painted after the flood. I asked Ivy to marry me. She cried before I finished the sentence. For 6 months, I believed love had outrun money. Then I met the Albrights. Alden Albright had built half the glass towers downtown. His name was on plaques, donor walls, hospital wings, and development proposals. He wore suits that looked carved onto him and spoke in a voice that made every sentence feel like a verdict. Priscilla Albright was quieter, not kinder, just quieter. She could insult you with a smile so delicate you would almost thank her for it. Their son, Quentin, treated boredom like a family inheritance. He had never held a job for longer than a season, but he spoke to working people as if we were furniture. At first, Ivy warned me. "They're difficult," she said. That was a soft word for it. At our first dinner together, Alden asked where I lived. When I told him, he paused just long enough for everyone to notice. "Still renting?" he asked. "Yes." "At your age?" Ivy squeezed my knee under the table. I smiled and said, "The water department does not pay in penthouses." Nobody laughed except Ivy. That was the last time she laughed around them without checking their faces first. The comments came regularly after that. My truck was practical. My job was reliable in its way. My apartment was humble. My family background was simple. Every word had a blade tucked inside it. Ivy fought them at first. She corrected them, defended me, left dinners early, ignored calls. But love is not the only pressure in a person's life. Family can press on old bruises nobody else can see. By the time the wedding planning began, Ivy was exhausted. Her mother criticized the venue. Her father complained about the guest list. Quentin joked that the wedding favors should be discount coupons for plumbing repairs. I told Ivy we could elope. She said, "No, I am not hiding the man I love." I held on to that sentence for weeks. Then her family invited me to their office. Just me. They said it was time to clear the air. I should have known rich people never clear the air unless they plan to charge you for breathing it. The Albright headquarters looked like a place designed to make ordinary people feel temporary. Glass walls, stone floors, silent assistants, a view of the city wide enough to make a man feel small. Alden, Priscilla, and Quentin were waiting in a private conference room. Ivy was not there. That was the first warning. The second warning was the envelope. Alden did not waste time. "Jonah," he said, "you seem like a decent man. Whenever a powerful person begins by calling you decent, prepare to be treated as disposable." He continued, "But marriage is not just about affection. It is about alignment, families, values, future stability." I said nothing. Priscilla leaned forward. "Ivy is emotional. She has always been drawn to causes, damaged things, people who need saving." People. That was what I was to her. A cause. A damaged thing. Quentin smirked. "Come on, man, you know how this ends. You get tired of pretending you fit. She gets tired of defending you. Everybody suffers." Alden opened the envelope and removed the check. $50,000, he said. "More than fair. In exchange, you end the engagement, move on, and do not contact Ivy again." The room went quiet. I could hear the ventilation humming above us. I looked at the check, then at Alden. "You want to pay me to break her heart?" His jaw tightened. "We want to prevent a mistake." "No," I said. "You want to purchase control?" Priscilla's smile vanished. Alden pushed the check closer. "You can make this noble if you want. Tell yourself you are freeing her. Tell yourself you are doing what is best." "And what will you tell her?" Quentin answered, "That you chose money." There it was. The trap. If I refused, they would keep attacking. If I accepted, they would use it to poison Ivy against me. They had planned every angle except one. They had no idea what I had been doing every Thursday night for the past year. I had been volunteering at the same Alder Street Community Center where Ivy and I met. After the flood, I started checking the building's water lines for free. Then I began helping nearby tenants document leaks, rust, pressure failures, and mold problems in old apartment blocks owned by shell companies. Shell companies that led back to Albright Development. I did not know that at first. When I found out, I stayed quiet and kept records. Water test results. Repair requests. Photos. Dates. Names. Families had complained for years and been ignored. The company promised renovations whenever inspectors came, then patched just enough to pass and moved on. One building housed a grandmother named Nola and her 2 grandsons. Their kitchen ceiling sagged every time it rained. Another had brown water twice a week. Another had a basement pump so old it sounded like it was begging to die. And now Alden Albright was preparing to ask the city for approval on a massive new luxury project. His public campaign was built around one phrase: community renewal. I looked at the check again. $50,000 could do a lot for people who had been ignored. It could pay for independent testing, legal filings, emergency filters, transportation to hearings, childcare for parents who needed to testify, a real communications team, a website, a live stream, printed reports no one could bury. Alden mistook my silence for surrender. "You are making the practical choice," he said. I picked up the check. Quentin laughed under his breath. Priscilla looked almost pleased. Alden stood and extended his hand. I did not shake it. I folded the check once and put it inside my jacket. Then I said, "You should be careful what you fund." Alden frowned. "What does that mean?" "It means I'll see you soon." I walked out before they could ask another question. By noon, they had already called Ivy. By 1, she had called me 17 times. I did not answer until I was standing outside the legal aid office on Pine Avenue with the check in my hand and my heart hammering against my ribs. When I finally picked up, she did not scream. That hurt more. Her voice was small. "Did you take money from my father?" "Yes." Silence. Why? Because he put it in my hand thinking it proved who I was. Her breath shook. "Jonah, please tell me what is happening. I need you to trust me until tomorrow night." That is not an answer. "No," I said. "It is a request." Quote. Another silence. Then Ivy said, "Did you agree to leave me?" I agreed to take the check. "That is not the same thing." "No." "Are you leaving me?" "Only if you ask me to." She cried then, quietly, not for herself, I think, for the ugliness of being loved by people who thought love meant ownership. "Tomorrow night," I said. "City Hall, 7 o'clock, your father's renewal presentation." "My parents told me not to go." "I know." "Then I'll be there." That was when I knew the Albrights had already lost more than they understood. The next 24 hours moved like a storm. The check cleared through a trust account handled by a legal aid attorney named Petra Vale. Not $1 went to me. By evening, the Alder Street tenants had transportation arranged. By midnight, a water quality lab had agreed to rush the reports. By morning, a local civic journalist had the first packet. By afternoon, city council staff had received the full documentation. And by 7 o'clock, Alden Albright walked into the City Hall atrium expecting applause. He got cameras. Not many at first, 3 local stations. 2 independent reporters. A few neighborhood organizers streaming from their phones. Enough. The atrium had been decorated for the Albright renewal presentation. Banners hung from the balcony. Glossy boards showed drawings of tree-lined plazas, rooftop gardens, and smiling families who looked nothing like the families currently being pushed out of their homes. Alden took the stage beside Priscilla and Quentin. Ivy stood near the back wearing a dark green dress and no jewelry from her mother. When she saw me, her eyes filled. I wanted to go to her. Not yet. Alden began his speech with polished sorrow. He spoke about responsibility, about giving back, about neglected neighborhoods deserving beauty. Then the first tenant stood. Nola walked slowly to the center aisle with her oldest grandson holding her elbow. Alden paused. His smile tightened. Nola held up a clear plastic bottle filled with brown water. "This came from my kitchen sink yesterday," she said. The room changed. Alden tried to recover. "Ma'am, there will be time for public comment after." Petra stepped forward. "Actually, Mr. Albright, the council received an emergency documentation packet this afternoon. Public health concerns have been added to tonight's agenda." Quentin turned sharply toward his father. Priscilla whispered something I could not hear. Then, the projector screen behind them flickered. The glossy renderings disappeared. In their place appeared a simple white slide. The Alder Street Water and Housing Report, funded by an initial $50,000 contribution from Alden and Priscilla Albright. The room gasped. Alden stared at the screen. Then at me. For the first time since I had known him, he looked unsure of the ground beneath his feet. I walked to the front. No suit. No expensive watch. Just my clean work jacket, my city ID clipped to the pocket, and the calm that comes when a man stops begging to be respected by people who have none to give. I faced the room. My name is Jonah Reed. I work in municipal water systems. I am also the man Alden Albright tried to pay to disappear. Cameras lifted. Alden snapped, "That is a private matter." "No," I said. "The check became public the moment it paid for public health testing." Priscilla's face went pale. Quentin muttered something and stepped away from the stage. I continued. "Yesterday, the Albright family gave me $50,000 because they believed I was not good enough to marry their daughter. They assumed I would pocket it, run, and prove them right." I looked at Ivy. Her hands were pressed to her mouth. "I did take it," I said. "But not for myself. That money paid for water testing, legal filings, emergency filters, transportation for tenants, and the public release of records showing years of ignored complaints in Albright-managed properties." Alden lunged toward the microphone. Petra stepped between us. A councilwoman rose from the front row. "Mr. Albright, you will have a chance to respond after the presentation." He looked trapped. "Not by me, by the truth." Slide after slide appeared. Rust levels. Complaint dates. Photos of ceilings. Emails unanswered. Repair tickets closed without repair. Families who had been told to wait. Children who had been told not to drink from their own sinks. The room did not erupt. It became something worse for the Albrights. Still, listening. When the report ended, Ivy walked down the aisle. Every camera followed her. Alden reached for her. "Ivy, this is manipulation." She stepped back. "No," she said, "manipulation is telling me the man I love sold me, when you were the ones who tried to buy him." Priscilla's eyes shone, but Ivy did not soften. "You taught me to be embarrassed by kindness if it came without money. You taught me to call cruelty protection. You taught me that reputation mattered more than people." Her voice broke, but she kept going. "I am done being raised by fear." Then she came to me. In front of her family, the city council, the tenants, the cameras, and everyone who had ever thought I looked too ordinary to matter, Ivy took my hand. Not because I had won, because she had chosen. The fallout did not happen all at once. That is not how real consequences work. The city postponed Albright renewal pending investigation. Then inspectors entered the Alder Street properties. Then emergency repairs were ordered. Then tenants organized. Then other buildings came forward. By the end of the month, the Albrights had spent far more than $50,000 trying to repair the damage they could have fixed years earlier for less money and far more humanity. Alden released a statement about unexpected operational oversights. Nobody believed it. Priscilla sent Ivy long messages about family unity. Ivy did not answer. Quentin tried to claim he had always supported reform. The internet handled that. As for the check, every penny was accounted for. Petra created a formal community fund from the remaining balance. Donations came in from people who had watched the hearing online. Plumbers volunteered. Contractors offered discounts. A university lab agreed to help with future water testing. The fund's name was Ivy's idea, not their class. At first I said it was too sharp. She said, "Good, some truths should have edges." 6 months later, the Alder Street Community Center reopened after repairs. The basement no longer flooded. The art room had new shelves. The water fountains worked. The kids painted a new mural across the back wall. It showed hands of every color holding up a city skyline. Underneath, Ivy painted the words, "No one is beneath clean water. No one is beneath dignity. No one is beneath love." We got married there on a Saturday morning. No chandeliers. No society pages. No guest list curated for status. Just folding chairs, grocery store flowers, children running between tables, and people who had seen us at our lowest and stayed. Ivy walked down the aisle alone. Not because she had no family. Because she had decided family should mean more than blood and pressure. When she reached me, she whispered, "Still here?" I smiled. Still here. Later, during the reception, Nola pulled me aside. She pressed something into my palm. It was a small, folded note from one of her grandsons. Inside, in crooked handwriting, it said, "Thank you for making them listen." I had to step outside after reading it. I stood behind the community center near the repaired pump room where Ivy and I had first talked until 2 in the morning. The city sounded different from there. Not softer. Just honest. I thought about Alden's conference room, the check, the way they smiled when they believed I had been bought. For a moment, I almost felt sorry for them. They had spent their lives confusing price with value. They could calculate land, buildings, influence, favors, silence. But they had never understood worth. Worth is not the neighborhood you come from. It is not the table you are invited to. It is not the number someone writes on a check and slides across polished wood. Worth is what you protect when no one powerful is watching. Worth is what you refuse to sell. And sometimes, if people insist on underestimating you, the best thing you can do is accept the weapon they hand you and turn it into a shelter for everyone they forgot. So yes, they offered me money to leave. I took it. Then I used it to make sure people like them could not keep walking over people like us without leaving footprints. And that is how $50,000 meant to erase me became the first money that ever made Alden Albright answer to the people he thought were beneath him. Thank you so much for watching until the very end. If this story hit something deep or reminded you that your value isn't up for negotiation, I would be grateful if you could hit that like button and share this video with someone who needs to hear it right now. Drop a comment below and tell me, what would you have done if someone offered you money to walk away from the person you loved? I read every single comment, and I genuinely love hearing your stories. If you're new here, make sure you subscribe and ring that notification bell so you don't miss another video. We share stories like this every single day. Thank you for being part of this family. I'll see you in the next one.